Hello, this is part of the AP Physics C video series. We're going to talk about exam-specific modifications for 2020. Obviously, there's been changes made for this year's AP exams. This presentation will detail changes made for AP Physics C Mechanics exam. The updated exam schedule has AP Physics C Mechanics slated for Monday, May 11th at 12 p.m. That's noon. This information supersedes anything that you may have seen or see now posted elsewhere. So again, Monday, May 11th at noon. The exam will take 45 minutes and will consist of 2 free response questions. There will be no multiple choice this year. So first we'll get into some of the logistics. They suggest logging in a half an hour before the exam, so 11:30 a.m. Presumably, you'll be using the same login that you have for AP Classroom. According to the AP Central, under coronavirus updates and taking the exams, they're going to provide information on how to access the testing system on test day sometime in late April. It's pretty late April now, so I guess the information should be coming very soon. The exam content has been truncated, so it will not include oscillation, it will not include gravitation. It will include the following: kinematics, Newton's laws, work and energy, impulse, momentum, and center of mass, and of course rotation, which basically has an application for all of the above content. All the exams this year are open book, open note. That means you can have pretty much whatever you want on hand. If you don't have a formula sheet anymore, I can provide one to you electronically, or you can download it from AP Central. But you'll have to print it out somehow. At this point, I can't get you a physical copy. Maybe one of your friends who has 10 copies of it can give one to you. They do have a caveat under open book and open notes. Collaborating with others is not considered acceptable open notes. AP exams give you an opportunity to show your mastery of a subject, not someone else's. It is strictly forbidden to give or receive aid during the exam. Any students found using the work of others, exchanging or sharing information on exam topics, collaborating via any online platform, or soliciting tips for problem-solving approaches will be investigated for violating exam security. The consequences for violating exam security are pretty severe. Ultimately, I'll be providing a link so you can see for yourself what the consequences are. Buried in the test security section is this little item. In addition, each student's AP teacher will receive copies of the work the student submits to us, enabling teachers to spot inconsistencies with students' known work. I find this very interesting. I assume you do too. So now we'll talk about the questions themselves. Question 1 will be 25 minutes plus 5 minutes to upload. It is described as a long free response question with increased emphasis on analyzing and explaining Physics C mechanics concepts represented by representations and data. Question will have less emphasis on pure calculation due to exam administration security protocol. See question 3 on the 2017 AP Physics 1 exam as an example. So we have to assume there will be very little in the way of numerical calculations at all. I'm assuming that security protocols means that it would be too easy to communicate numerical results to somebody else, so they probably won't be present. Symbolic representation remains a possibility. I can imagine them using more than one version of the exam, maybe with different symbols, or even slightly different questions. So that those are possibilities. Apparently this question is worth 60% of the raw score. We do not know right now how the point values are distributed. It's described as a long free response question, which is not explained anywhere else that I can find. I am working on that with communications with the College Board, so maybe I'll know soon. What I find most curious about this description is concepts represented by representations and data. And I'm not sure what is meant exactly by represented by representations. I'm assuming that means graphs or tabular data, images and descriptions. These are all representations. I don't know how else they can represent anything. So I don't think, I think this is not going to be very different from what we're used to. It's likely to include one or more of the questions that are worded something like, if the object were to be replaced by some other object, would the answer to question A or question B increase, decrease, or remain the same? Justify your response. We've done quite a few of those over the last 2 years, so you should be familiar with them. Since they're giving you 25 minutes for it, and most historical questions are formulated for 15 minutes, it may be slightly longer than you're used to, maybe with more parts. So now on to question 2. This question assesses students' ability to design and evaluate a lab experiment, use graphical analysis of data to find physical quantities, and identify physical sources of experimental variation. Similar in structure to experimental design Physics C questions. See question 2 on the 2012 AP Physics C Mechanics exam as an example. Now, I know we're not big fans of these, but we can address them the same way we did last year towards the end of the year. I'm going to provide you with a list of standard lab equipment, what it can be used to measure, and the basic ideas about specific concepts that can be verified experimentally in the laboratory. We tend to, when we read this, we tend to focus on the design part because we don't like it. This also has elements of data linearization in it. For example, graphical analysis of data to find physical quantities. I know how they might put these together in the same problem, and we'll have some examples over the next couple days. This question is worth 40% of the exam raw score, but again, we don't have absolute point values at this point. If the other question is worth 15, this one will be worth 10. Whatever the values are themselves, the ratio will be 3 to 2. Tomorrow we're going to look at the problem they suggest from 2012. We'll look at the scoring guidelines and the sample responses and so on. I'm also going to go back through earlier exams as far back as I can get for other experimental design questions. I can remember a couple over the years, but not many. It would also be a good idea to look back at any labs you still have in your possession. In particular, what was the ultimate goal? How did you measure the data you needed? And how was it used to prove or verify some physics principle? That's what they're going to ask you to do. So that's what we've been doing pretty much all year. All right. So that's going to be it. Those are the modifications for this year's exam. We're going to get some practice at experimental design, and we'll keep moving on. So that is all, and we'll be in touch. Enjoy.